We have more on the in-depth report in tonight's top story. Now, in July, Pam Zubek with the Colorado Springs Independent began looking into how the city handled the evacuation and management of the Waldo Canyon fire. What she found is not going to sit well with city leaders. Now, according to the Indy, some first-hand accounts show a city that was not prepared for what happened when the fire moved into the Mountain Shadows area. It says the city was given ample warning the fire could move into the city, but evacuation orders were given too late. Firefighters arriving from other cities at the height of the fire Tuesday night, then sitting idle for over an hour while those in the firestorm were asking for help. Also, according to the Indy, when firefighters tried to reach command or each other, sometimes no one answered. And the story also documents firefighters stating they weren't told what to do or didn't know who was in charge. Today we sat down with Indy reporter Pam Zubek to find out more. So we'll start with, why did the Indy do this story?
Well, Joe, it's really a no-brainer, this being the biggest public safety incident in the history of the city, not to mention the most destructive fire in the history of the state. So that in itself warrants a close look. And given that there were a few indicators from the very beginning that things were not going completely according to plan, or what you might suspect would be according to plan, we thought it was something that was worthwhile. And we see ourselves as a service organization, you might say, and so what better way to serve the community than to take a deeper look at this incident.
What was your goal?
The goal was to find out exactly if things had gone as planned and what was the city's plan. The evacuation would suggest that there was a lack of planning, and those folks that were themselves put in that situation, they're of course thankful that they escaped, all except for 2 people, as we know. They themselves might be asking that question. This story is heavily reliant on documents. The core of the story is firefighters' duty reports that are required to be filed on every fire that they respond to. So our story tells what happened from the beginning of the fire through Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning from the point of view of the firefighters in large part.
So how did the city respond to your inquiries?
The city was in large degree cooperative in fulfilling open records requests. They often took longer than is allowed under the law. They would request extra time. But we got most everything that we requested. There were some documents that were not released under certain exemptions in the Open Records Act. One being the list of concerns that firefighters themselves have submitted to the city. Another was one singular duty report that we don't know what that report states.
And we'll talk about your conclusions in a minute, but one of the things I found was you had high marks for the firefighters who were actually fighting the fire and working hard. A lot of the issues appear to be around leadership.
Correct.
What did your report conclude?
Our report concluded that the city was ill-prepared for when that fire swept into the city. It's especially concerning given that there was a lot of information at that point about the type of fire, the fire behavior, the conditions. The fire had burned for days, yet the city had not taken the steps that were necessary to support firefighters once they were called to action.
Zubek says one of the things they'd like to see come out of this story at the Independent is an independent investigation into the Waldo Canyon fire and how all the agencies involved handled the situation. Now, you can read the whole article for yourself in tomorrow's edition of the Independent. You can pick up the Independent Wednesday mornings around the Springs and online at csindy.com.